I assumed it was gas, or perhaps the leftover tacos from the previous evening, when I first felt a dull cramp right behind my ribs, returning to haunt me. But an hour later, I was hunched over in my office, shivering through my dress shirt and clutching. Denise, my assistant, looked at me with wide eyes and said nothing. The edge of my desk seemed to be the only thing keeping me upright. I was terrified. I dialed 911. But before I could even object, the paramedics arrived, just as I collapsed to the ground, writhing in agony. They asked questions, but the rear of the ambulance felt cold and sterile, and each breath now stabbed like a blade. I was clenching my teeth to answer. My vitals showed my blood pressure was falling. My pulse rate was elevated. Regarding a ruptured appendix, one of them said, "We need to get him into surgery, fast." I overheard it, through the fog. I grabbed my phone. Called my wife, Talia. She picked up on the third ring. I could hear the background. Glasses clinking. Laughter. A familiar song from our wedding playlist. "Hello?" she said, her voice bright. "I'm in an ambulance," I told her. "They think it's my appendix." There was a pause. Not a gasp. Not even a, "Where are you?" "I'm coming," just a pause. Then she said, "I'm at Cassie's wedding." I paused too. Maybe I misheard. Maybe she'd ask if we could talk later, frantically. Maybe she'd say she was coming right now, but there was nothing. Just the sound of her breathing, the party behind her. Then, a click. I looked at the phone, hoping it could explain what had just happened. Maybe I called the wrong number? Maybe she didn't hear me. But no. She hung up. My phone was taken from me when we got to the ER. A nurse placed it in a plastic bag with my wallet and keys. "We'll take good care of it," she said. And then gently, "We'll take good care of you." Her voice was warm, like a blanket over my chest. But the kindness only deepened the pain. They gave me something through the IV. The world turned blurry. A surgeon arrived. Explained things. I asked if I could see my wife. They shook their heads, softly. There was no one here. I nodded. Not in agreement, but because I had no energy left to disagree. The last thing I saw was nothing. Just the absence of her. The nurse squeezed my hand. "Count back from 10, she said. I tried. Made it to 7, maybe 6. Then black. When I woke in the recovery room, I was alone. It wasn't the pain that got me first. It was the quiet. No rushing footsteps. No gentle voice calling my name. No fingers brushing my hair aside. A nurse smiled. "The surgery went well," she said. "You're really lucky." I nodded. Again. She asked softly, "Is your daughter coming to visit?" I wanted to say, "My wife should be here." But instead, I just whispered, "Not yet." They moved me to a standard room. Every time I heard footsteps, I thought it might be her. Every vibration. My phone, maybe, but my phone stayed black. When I finally asked to check it, there was just one new message from my neighbor, Clarice. "After school, I'll bring Bria. She's with me." She heard. "Hang in there." I lay back on the hard hospital bed, one hand on the phone, the other pressed to the bandage on my side. It was a lifeline, but only my child was holding the other end. The meds numbed my stomach, but not the sting in my chest. Talia hadn't even asked which hospital I was in. That probably said more than anything else. I kept replaying the call. Her voice, airy, distracted, like I had interrupted her at the grocery store, not from the back of a speeding emergency truck, minutes from being cut open. Maybe the operation didn't just remove a failing organ. Maybe it exposed something else. That I'd been dying, in a marriage that had been rotting long before my appendix. And she wouldn't have known. Not until the music stopped and the lights came back on at that goddamn wedding. "Can we talk later?" she said. And I believed her. Because, deep down, I was still making space for a woman who had already let me go. But then Bria came. The room was gray, not just in color, but in feeling, that kind of gray that soaks into your skin, makes you forget how to breathe. The breathing tube had left my throat raw. Everything beeped and blinked. My body felt reassembled, like puzzle pieces roughly forced, back into place. Then, I felt tiny fingers wrap around my hand. I turned, and there she was. Bria, my 7-year-old daughter, sitting on the edge of my hospital bed, legs swinging, hair in a messy ponytail, wearing her favorite rainbow hoodie with the unicorn patch peeling off the corner. She said softly, "Hi, Daddy," and it hit me. She had been holding my hand all along, just not physically. I rasped her name. "Bria?" She nodded. "Clarice picked me up from school," she said. "You got hurt. Not my wife. Not her mother. Clarice. Someone else brought my daughter to me. When I was laid out, sliced open and sedated. I'm fine," I told her, holding her hand weakly. She looked at me like she knew better. Didn't call me out on it, but didn't believe it either. Then she said, "Henry wanted to come too." She reached into her tiny backpack and pulled out her stuffed green turtle, a bit frayed. "Well loved. He keeps secrets," she said, placing him next to my arm. "Despite the pain," I laughed. "Thanks, sweetheart," I said. "I could use a few secrets." She leaned in, voice small. "Why didn't Mommy come?" It hit harder than the surgeon's scalpel. "What do you say? When the truth will break something in the child you love?" I hesitated. We were the only two people in the universe right then. Measured every syllable, but Bria just looked at me, wide-eyed, and said, "That's not okay. I wanted to defend Talia, but I had no defense." "I'll stay," she said. And she did. She sat with me for hours, humming to herself, coloring in her notebook, watching my monitor like she could fix it. The nurses adored her. One gave her an extra dessert cup. Another let her borrow a stethoscope. When Clarice came back with food and a warm blanket, she told me, "That little girl? She wouldn't leave you, even if you begged her to." I nodded. I understood. As night fell, I drifted in and out, lulled by the morphine and the steady, unwavering presence of Bria. She never cried. She just stayed, a little rock when the world felt like it was crumbling. I woke later to find her, asleep. Henry at her feet, notebook hugged to her chest, chin tucked in. I reached for it, flipped through the pages, bright strokes of color. One drawing, a hospital